I thought would be best is if I gave you sort of a broad overview of how things look in terms of our foreign policy, and in many ways that would set you up for any questions you might have. So let me begin, and I think if there's a single sort of strand of foreign policy that I would really emphasize over the last 2 years, it is a much stronger linkage between foreign policy, between, I would say, diplomatic style and priorities and domestic development goals. When a few days after I took over, in fact, our first Heads of Missions conference, we had a theme called Diplomacy for Development. Now, this cliche, in a way, actually captured the point I'm making, because if you actually look today at the bulk of our conversations abroad, who do we meet, who do we talk to, what is the content of those conversations, what are the outcomes when visits take place, you will see actually there's a very marked shift. And the shift is that today we look at how to advance our national flagship programs, how do we find international partnerships which will help them go forward, how do we get a stronger global response to the easier to do business message. And putting out that easier to do business message itself is today a very important component of our diplomacy. So the first point I would make really for your consideration is that Indian diplomacy today in many ways is more practical, more outcome oriented, more development focused, and you know, it can have, when I say development focus, it can have very big projects, it can have very down to earth things. I mean, we just did a tour of East and South Africa, and one of the big priorities there was really agreeing on how to source pulses from Africa in a much more sustained and predictable way. So that's my first point. The second is on the neighborhood. Now we pushed this term neighborhood first. I think it reflects the importance that we give to greater connectivity, greater expanded cooperation, more people-to-people contacts. But underlying it is really sharp awareness that South Asia is probably among the least regional geographies of the world. That what really is taken as a given almost in any other part of the world, you know, the ability to travel smoothly, the ease with which goods move, the ease with which people move, the fact, you know, connections on electricity or internet. Now, a lot of these don't exist, or if they do exist at a very, very rudimentary stage in South Asia. And there's been, there is really considerable sort of a very strong commitment to taking that regionalization forward. And to do that, we know that as the biggest country of the region, we have to really go the extra mile. That we have to reach out to our neighbors, we have to make them feel secure, we have to offer them terms of engagement that are attractive to them, we have to get them to buy into this larger cooperative endeavor and give them the assurance that this is something where you know, we are willing to in many ways do more than our fair share to make it work. Now, it takes different manifestations. Some of it is really development projects, cooperative projects. These are not new. I mean, hydel projects in Bhutan, for example, have been going on for years. But what has probably changed is the focus on these projects, the effort to make them go, deliver on them much faster, and you've consequently seen long pending projects really come to a closure. You saw the Afghan Parliament, you saw the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam at Salma, you saw a stadium recently in Jaffna, the ICP facilities in Bangladesh, faster movement on some of the hydel projects. But the thrust is really a much more cooperative, confident neighborhood, much more connected neighborhood in many ways. And I would say after development diplomacy, this connectivity diplomacy is a second element of what we are doing. Now, when we look at this, obviously the politics of the region comes into play, and while we all agree that we should move forward, it doesn't always go very smoothly. At times, domestic politics of our neighbors pose challenges, and we have learned to be patient, and often the mix of diplomacy and patience gets you through difficult situations. I think you've seen that in the last few months. But we, in looking at the neighborhood, clearly face a unique challenge in respect to one country, which is Pakistan. And the reason for it is that if you look at these assumptions of which I've spoken about of the neighborhood, greater connectivity, closer, broader cooperation, more people-to-people contacts, there isn't a buy-in on those assumptions. So even when we work on SAARC issues, we often find everybody else is willing to accept a particular project or a particular initiative, but they have issues coming in on that. Now, why and how to, why that is so, how to deal with it is itself a subject for analysis. But there is a second problem, and I think that too is a unique issue in the subcontinent, which is the centrality of the issue of terrorism. Because what you have seen in the last 2 years is a great effort on our part to reach out to Pakistan and find common ground on the many issues that face the relationship. But the last time this was done was in December, when the foreign minister went there for the Heart of Asia conference, and we agreed to look at the comprehensive bilateral dialogue, which we hoped would begin in January this year. But the problem is that the terrorism issue has become so central to the relationship that effectively it makes it very difficult for the relationship as a whole to progress. We saw that at the beginning of the year at Pathankot. The lack of progress on the Pathankot investigations thereafter. Now the challenges that we faced in the last few weeks have only underscored the point. We've had a number of number of cross-border terrorist infiltrations and attacks. We've had today an incident in Jammu and Kashmir. We had one, more than one actually, on August 15th itself. There, we recently highlighted the case of Bahadur Ali, Lashkar-trained terrorist who we actually managed to catch alive. So we have to come to terms with the fact that while on our part, and today really the rest of the region is with us, in wanting a much more cooperative, connected South Asia. But we have this one standout country, a country which not only has a different view of the region, but also has attitude towards the use of terrorism as an instrument of policy or diplomacy, which makes it a very difficult partner for all of us. When I speak of connectivity diplomacy, I would go beyond South Asia, and again I point to progress we have made with Iran on Chabahar. We do believe that on the east, the new initiatives with Bangladesh will actually expand our Act East policy. We are moving forward with some long pending projects with Myanmar, and people don't often talk about it to the south. If you look at Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, there is a push as well for maritime connectivity. So when I speak of connectivity beyond South Asia, it refers to the extended neighborhood, both to the east and to the west, and also to the south. We've also had a lot of diplomatic activity in the Gulf, where we've engaged most of the major players this year. And we had earlier last year done that in Central Asia. And you will see in the coming weeks the Prime Minister heading eastwards. We have commitments in the ASEAN region to keep. Now, apart from the immediate and extended neighborhood, a few words about our relationships with the larger powers on the global scene. I think you know, at the anniversary of the mygov.in, Prime Minister himself spoke when he was asked this question, and he spoke about his understanding of how the world had changed, where today actually these blocks and tight alliances and alignments are less relevant, and really every power, certainly every major power, has a relationship with every other power. And in a sense, what he was conveying was a much more multi-dimensional, much looser international order, where you have to work with powers often who have competing interests. And that calls really for a different skill, in many ways, I would say a different level of imagination when it comes to engaging these powers. And I would say that we have done reasonably well there. I think beginning with our relationship with the United States, which today is, and I say this as someone who has been handling it directly for the last 3 years now. You know, the graph has certainly shown very marked improvement, and a lot of long pending issues have been settled, are in the process of being settled in different ways today. The relationship, whether it's on security, whether it's on business, whether it's in, you know, civil society, you really have, I would say, a qualitatively new level of cooperation. Similarly with Russia, again, for most Indians, we are very comfortable with that relationship. But over the years, the relationship had actually narrowed down to its defense, the defense security, the nuclear, and to some extent the space side. I think what we have succeeded in doing, particularly in the last year, is to expand its economic component very substantially, particularly the energy component. And we hope later in the year that summit level meetings would allow us to build on that. With Europe broadly, but specifically with France, Germany, UK, again, I think you can see a much more robust economic engagement with the French in particular, more strategic cooperation as well. And then with China, China represents really a more mixed picture. I think often the immediate sort of stories for the press tend to obscure the more, I would say, day-to-day, long-term progress that we have made. If I'm doing here a self-comparison. I mean, to me, two very big issues which certainly I saw in my 4.5-year tenure in Beijing as constraints on the relationship have been very substantially addressed. One are opportunities for Chinese investment in India, which have become much more liberal. And China actually has probably climbed up the investment chart much more sharply than any other country has in the last 2 years. And this is important because in many ways the investment, we hope, will address the trade deficit problem which has bedeviled the relationship. The other is we made it much easier for people to travel between the two countries, and this has also been a long-standing complaint. Now, having said that, there have also been, I don't want to suggest to you these are the only areas where we cooperate with the Chinese, but I would also accept that we have faced some challenges in the relationship recently. Most of you have written about it or covered it in some form or the other. The visit of the Chinese foreign minister gave us an opportunity to revisit some of those issues. I think really, certainly from speaking from our perspective, whether a well-known terrorist who actually proudly accepts that he has undertaken actions against this country is sanctioned by a UN committee or not is not a small issue. Nor indeed is the challenge of more predictable access to nuclear energy, particularly at a time when we are looking to expand that sector as part of our meeting our INDC commitments under the Paris Agreement.